Hey there, Dance Studio rock stars, and welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, where we're cranking up the volume and celebrating like never before with our 500th epic episode. I'm Olivia Mode-Cater, the Director of Strategic Initiatives, and I oversee the world-class Inner Circle program here at the DSOA. And joining me today is the phenomenal Lisa DeMeo, our Inner Circle program manager. Together, we're about to blow your dance-loving mind with an episode you won't soon forget. We've got something extra special in store for you. Our incredible mystery guest across this double episode is, drumroll please, the one and only Alicia Graf Mack. Now, before we dive into this value-packed interview, we want to take a moment to thank you, our incredible listeners. Your loyalty and support have propelled us through 500 episodes of dance studio inspiration, advice, and success stories over the past 9 years. You are the heartbeat of this podcast, and we couldn't have reached this incredible milestone without you. So get ready to celebrate dance studio owners with Lisa by my side and Alicia Graf Mack as our special guest. We're about to revolutionize the dance world together. Well, it's clear from this conversation, everything you've done, you are absolutely pushing our field forward. Just through your leadership and the programming and the things you're implementing at the Juilliard School. Our studio owners, our listeners, they're trying to do the same thing in their communities. So what are some ways you think they can do that and push our field forward at home in their towns and cities, wherever they are?
Yeah, I think it's all about your pedagogical practice. Not always exactly the things that you teach, right? Like, you could teach Cicchetti or Vaganova, or sort of like the American mutt, I call it, way of training in ballet. As long as a teacher is approaching their work with a sense of care, with making sure that the language that they use speaks to the students in a way that lifts them up and not tears them down, you're going to be an amazing teacher. You're going to create incredible students who want to keep moving forward. So it's not, like I said, always about all the small sort of decisions, whether you wrap your foot in coup de pied or not. Those things, we have to learn how to do it all. But it's the approach of knowing like, oh, there are so many different ways to do this. Let's talk about it. Let's discover how we can do it together. So I think it's just engendering a sense of curiosity in your students is the most important thing. Teachers can always continue to develop themselves professionally, to go to various professional development training programs or listen to podcasts like your podcast. And to be exposed. I didn't grow up doing a lot of competitions, but I do appreciate, and I did appreciate the opportunities when I did get to go and do various things or large conventions, because it exposed me to other students my age who had the same big dreams that I had. And I, naturally, I don't think in an unhealthy way, but would compare myself like, oh my gosh, they are regularly doing triple turns. That is not in my wheelhouse. So I would go back to the studio and then try to up my own game. And my teacher was very good at like assessing what our students at this age, at this level, what are they doing? So no matter how small the studio is, I think there's a way to broaden the horizons by going outside and continuing to educate ourselves as teachers.
Absolutely. You talked a lot about discovery. And I love that you use that word so often, because on any educational path, discovery is what makes it exciting, right? Like, as the best form of education is learning through self-discovery. So I want to talk a little bit more about your thoughts on the changing landscape of professional dance in the 21st century. How can studio owners stay relevant and innovate in their approach to training dancers?
That's a great question. I don't know that I'm the best person to answer that question, because I myself, I'm not a studio owner. And I think the way that the Juilliard School operates is a little different than like a private dance studio. However, I think the tenets to staying updated, seeing yourself as a 21st century institution is sort of similar across the board. And again, that has to do with going outside of your own school, out of your own like normal practices, and opening your eyes and seeing what's happening outside. I think we're shifting away in terms of pedagogical practices from the dancer is a tool for a choreographer sort of language. When I was training, it was the understanding that as a dancer, you do what you're told. Unless something, major happens, you're really not in discussion with whoever is at the front of the room. And that was not a negative thing. That was what I signed up for. And I loved, I loved being a dancer in that way. But I think the model has shifted, and choreographers now are calling for a much more collaborative process, creative process. And so students really need to know how to jump into that process. And that happens in the classroom. As hard as it is to imagine a collaborative ballet class, I think for some generations of teachers, we have to be able to kind of come down a little bit and ask the students questions and be in conversation with the students instead of just, this is what it is, do it and do it again and do it again, and watch them struggle and not have a discussion about, okay, well, what are you feeling in your body? How can I help you to understand what that is? So yeah, we're getting to the same technical goals, teaching goals, learning goals, but I think in a much different way. And I think we're going to lose students, very talented students of this generation, if the approach is not collaborative in that way. And then in being in conversation with a student, actually vocalizing and you hearing their voice and themselves hearing their own voice, when a choreographer comes into the room and says, okay, here is the basic phrase, improv of this phrase, and let me see what you come up with. Or here's another way you improv as a dancer. This job is no longer available. You still have your rent to pay. What are you going to do? And a student can problem solve because they've been in the practice of questioning, responding, and problem solving since they were young. And so it's a life practice and not just something we do as creative people.
Yeah. The modern dancer in me loves that answer. I remember my first introduction to modern dance in high school, and it was very collaborative like that. And I personally loved that process. And then my career dancing as a modern dancer, it was always, okay, we're going to improv through this poem, we're going to improv through this sequence, and we'd film it, and then it would be creating together. And I think that's where the true innovation comes in,
Yep, exactly. When you have to kind of bounce off ideas off of each other, share ideas, question your own thoughts. These are not only just dance technique practices that we want students to learn, but we want to create innovative thinkers. We want, young leaders to help to change our world for the good. So we have to give them tools to be able to do that. And you're absolutely right. When we're in conversation with each other, like actual conversation towards problem solving, that's when innovation happens. That's where it comes from.
Dance skills are life skills. I feel like I say it every episode, but it always comes up. Sometimes we feel like we're working in isolation and, we're just in those four walls, but so many of those things can carry you in life and in your career. So we're doing good work. We can feel good about it.
Right. You're building, interesting, excited, curious human beings. That's what that's what I hope for. My daughter is 6 and she's taking dance classes. My son took a few classes last year. And the goal really is not for her to dance, although if that's what she wants to do, that's great. But I know what dance can do for a young person to build confidence, to lift them up, to have them have a greater understanding of their body as an instrument, to honor their body as an instrument, to be collaborative, to problem solve, all the things. That's what I hope that she gains. You know, what happens when you really work hard at something and then you can feel the growth. That's a whole different type of affirmation than, you know, some other type of outward recognition or response.
I love that. Yeah, that intrinsic feedback you get through movement is just, it's hard to replicate in any other way, for sure. So where do you see this all heading? You're changing it. You're on the cutting edge. You're on the forefront. Where do you see the dance industry evolving? Do you think there's certain opportunities and challenges that are coming up for studio owners in particular and dancers in general?
You know, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that I'm like changing the dance world. I think it's just bringing a recognition to these young people who are living very authentically in their truths and allowing the space for that to happen. And honestly, that's where I see our field going, that we're artists for a reason, because we have something to say, that our bodies want to speak something that we can't actually articulate clearly with words. And so I hope that our dance world becomes or continues to be or opens up in some ways to be that place to recognize all of these huge gifts and talents that the dance world holds. And yes, I do hope that other places can see that recognition as well, so that our students, our young students, have places to go and companies to aspire to dance for. You know, last night I was watching, we're like binge watching Marvelous Miss Maisel. Is that the name of the show?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
The Marvelous Miss Maisel. It's a fantastic show. And I was just saying to my husband, like, you know, God bless this show because it has employed so many dancers and just kept someone going for another couple months to pay their rent, to keep the dream alive. And I think that's kind of my hope for the dance world, is that it continues to open up and continues to see dancers as artists who really enhance everything. Commercial work, dancers who tour with recording artists, of course, concert dance performers, dancers who perform with the opera. The work that we do, it brings so much to whatever the performance or venue is. And I would love for dancers to be well recognized in terms of compensation, crediting. You know, you think about what award shows give awards to best choreographer. We don't see that at the Oscars. And how many movies have we seen that have been, you know, given all these incredible awards, but the movement has not been recognized. And that's what makes it come alive, you know? So yeah, I think there's lots of ways that we can recognize what we're doing, but I honestly feel like in the dance industry, we are light years ahead in the way that we think and the way that we operate than so many other fields and industries. We just haven't been recognized for it yet. Sorry, that took me a while to get to that, but yes, I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
no, these innovations are here already.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So, Alicia, how do you balance the demands of being a dance educator and administrator while continuing to perform or maybe collaborate with other artists outside of Juilliard?
Sometimes projects come my way, and I take the projects that I think are like body friendly and age friendly for where I am now, just because I'm not in the practice of taking class every day or using my body the way that I would like to every day. So I would say that really there is no balance right now. I was just thinking as I was coming into the office during my commute, life is so beautiful and full and challenging and wonderful. What would the things be that I would say if somebody was like, if you could just have X, Y, or Z, it would be perfect. And really, it would be time to be in a movement practice for myself. I usually ride the bike. I have a Peloton at home. And because it's to music and it's to the beat and I can kind of groove out and be in my own world, that's what I've been doing to kind of find my physical and, the endorphins and to kind of remind myself who I am in my body.
Right.
But I'm not really dancing so much right now. Really, it's about my kids and seeing them do what they do, taking their classes. And my son is starting to really get into sports. So I love that they're physical beings. And that makes me really happy. Yeah.
I think a lot of our studio owners will resonate with that. I don't know if you're going to say that, Lisa, because they're the leaders too, and they have families, and it's right. It's hard to find your movement practice. And also I found it's weird also switching back to be the student again, right? When you're used to leading the class, like my brain, I take Pilates reformer regularly, and it's really hard for me to switch off. Like, oh, she should have walked over. Oh, why didn't she give that note? Like, I can't turn the teacher brain off. I'm like, just be the student, Olivia. Stop worrying what everyone else is doing. And so, yeah, I think they'll really relate. I don't know if Lisa, what you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say I think that's okay. And I think it's great to acknowledge that that's the dancer's journey sometimes. I mean, for most of us, right? You start as the student, then you move into your professional career, and then you usually move into the education realm, and you're having families. And as you get older in this industry, you have to almost innovate how you're working in it. And so I feel the same way. I don't get into a class as much as I'd like to, but I have my own sort of movement things that I do. I'm a runner. I work out in this way, and occasionally I'll take time out to take a dance class. But when you have children, when you birth children, things don't work the same,
No.
So you just have to, move gracefully through your career. And that's exactly what you're doing. So.
Wow.
We're with you. We're with you, Alicia. We hear you. So as we start to wrap up here, our field is, I feel like it's so cool now, because I think in the last few years, there's so many paths and ways you can have a career in dance. I think before we had maybe a limited scope that it's choreographer, performer, and that's kind of it. And now you can own a studio, you can be an arts administrator, you can be an educator. Like, there's so many paths. What would be a piece of advice you would share for anyone who's looking to pursue a career in this field?
I would say to have longevity in this field, you have to be a multi-hyphenated professional, meaning you are a dancer, administrator, entrepreneur, choreographer, teacher, so that you can continue to move through all of the opportunities gracefully and to be able to say yes, because you trust that you would do, that you know enough to say yes to, right? And that's what I think for me, going back to school and sort of retooling, even though I didn't study anything dance related in school, allowed me to continue to say yes, or I'm going to try to very scary things, to say, oh, can you be a keynote speaker at this event? Yes, I can, because I took a public speaking class in college because I was so scared of hearing my own voice. Can you organize an event? My sister and I, we started DNA Arts Collective in 2012, and it was simply because she had had 10 years as a performer in the commercial dance world. And I was then dancing with Ailey. And we would walk down the street together to, get coffee or grab dinner after our various rehearsals. And young kids would stop us on the street and say, oh, are you Dacia Graf? I am about to audition for, an agent. What should I wear? There were people who would come up to us and ask us questions all the time. And then we realized, wow, there needs to be more mentors, more sort of guidance counselors for dancers. Mm-hmm. And that's why we created DNA Arts Collective. I didn't know about arts administration at the time, but you figure it out. You figure it out. You learn how to budget and make a website and, learn how to communicate effectively. And then you say yes. And then you continue to move on, and all of these different scary, I shouldn't say scary, but, things that are daunting, things that you really want to do that you feel like you could be good at, but hadn't tried yet. It's scary. Mm-hmm. So the more things that you can say yes to, the more skills that you build and you can put into your kind of toolbox, the greater longevity you have in doing all the things that you enjoy.
That's such a great point, because you're right. In dance education, we focus so much on technique and movement and precision, and we never focus on the career of dance and how to work in this industry. So I know a lot of our studio owners are teaching grant writing. They're teaching audition process, things like that are going to make their dancers come out a little bit more well-rounded and how to work within the industry. And I'm glad that you guys set out to do that as well.
Yeah, I would say have your students also, if there's a student who seems to have like a business mind, have them shadow your administrators, have them shadow, be a rehearsal director for the day, have them take notes, have them see what it looks like, what the view looks like from the front of the room. Start to introduce them to those ideas really early.
Now, Alicia, you recently launched a podcast of your own, Moving Moments. Can you tell our listeners some of your favorite moments from this podcast, and also where they can maybe sneak off and listen to it?
Yes, thank you for bringing this up. Yes, I have now launched the whole first season of Moving Moments podcast. It is co-produced by myself and Artful Narratives Media. This was something that I never thought that I could do successfully. And with Artful Narrative support, I've been really proud of what we've done. Having been in the dance world for so long and being in this position at the Juilliard School, I am always surprised about how my circle of people are the dance leaders in our field. And I try not to be like jaded by it. I try to like remember the young person in me who, looked up to Judith Jamison and now is interviewing her for a podcast to learn more about her motivations and her inspirations and what was it like dancing as a child and, all of these things. So I don't know that I have one sort of favorite moment from starting this podcast, but I think it is about being around leaders in our field who have the same DNA that I do, that when they talk about themselves as a young person, or they talk about the high of performing or making the magic moving moment, that there's so many similarities in terms of everyone's story. And yet everyone comes from very different backgrounds and circumstances and even types of dancing that they've been in practice with. So it's really just been a gift to be able to share these conversations that I would have normally just like over coffee with a friend who happens to be Justin Peck. It's right. Kind of like, wow, I try to remember how amazing this life is and share that sense of spirit with the world.
Love it. Well, we recommend go find it. Moving Moments. Where can people find it?
Yes, you can find Moving Moments podcast on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And you can also go to artfulnarrativesmedia.com for more information.
Awesome. Alicia, this was such a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for your time with us today. I'm sure people are having so many aha moments from this chat we've had, and I'm sure they'll want to hear more from you, and we'll head over and listen to your podcast as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Until next time, everyone, thanks. Have a great week. Bye. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey, celebrating our 500th episode in style. We hope you're buzzing with inspiration and ready to conquer the dance world. If you loved what you heard today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on future episodes. And hey, while you're at it, leave us a sparkling review to spread the dance studio love far and wide. I know you can't see me right now, but I'm giving you a little winky face there. Keep rocking those studios, keep chasing your dreams, and keep transforming the world one dance step at a time. Until next time, stay fabulous, stay fierce, and keep dancing like nobody's watching.